Hello, everyone. Uh, I am Scott Whitty. I have the honor of being the president of IVRPA, the International VR Professionals Association. We are the only international association that serves the interests and needs of VR, XR creatives. And we are here to facilitate the advancement of our members or everybody in the industry professionally and creatively. Let's see. If you want to send a message on the chat, you'll see there's a little blue box above where you type. If you want it to go to everybody, be sure that you click everybody and not otherwise it will just go to the board members. And let's see, we will have a Q&A towards the end. We may pick up a couple along the way, but that can be difficult at times. So without further ado, I will hand my screen over to Lauren Ibarrando, who is leading this presentation. Lauren, take it away.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Lauren Ibarrando, a board member here at IVRPA, and I'm going to give a presentation today on websites and VR. How, if you're building a website or you're building VR and you want to share it, how do you merge those two together? And I'm looking at a design, development, and optimization point of view. And because it's such a vast subject, I feel that this will be the start of a number of series on this. So today I'm going to I'll call it part one. And I'm looking at the ecosystem and resources. So, what's out there. So it's going to be high level, but I'm going to dip into examples. And the presentation is short, but it has a lot of links to the sources, to the various companies and tools. So I put a PDF in the chat. I recommend downloading that. And you can look at and click on things. There's tutorials in there as links and stuff. So let me get going. So topics today I'm going to cover is what are the architecture considerations when you're dealing with VR content? Inodes, iframes, and compression are really so move my Zoom window here. Okay. And then choosing a platform. Once you have that consideration of that you're dealing with VR, it's a little bit different than standard media. How do you build a website? How do you share it? And you can go with hosting providers where you're coding the site outright. You can go with online platforms. I like to refer to them as libraries. Those are places that are specifically built to display and share 360-degree imagery. And then social media also presents an option for you. Then I'm going to get into how do you actually build a website now that you're choosing how you're going to store your VR. What's the methods for building websites? And broken down high level, you have what they call the drag and drop builders. That's Wix, Squarespace, Shopify, GoDaddy. Elementor is the big one that's inside WordPress, but I'll tell you that they're all the same thing. And you'll see them here. I've got sample virtual tours that I'll pull up in each one of these so you can see the differences. Then you're now building up in complexity and power. You start to get into the content management systems. WordPress is the most common. Most websites are WordPress based in our realm. Then as you get up to enterprise level, you'll start to deal with Joomla and Drupal. Drupal is not one that you'll build your virtual tour, but if you're working with government institutions, large museums, and things like that, and your VR content will have to be integrated within their Drupal system. And enterprise website content management systems are very restrictive, and you can run into serious problems in trying to put VR on a Drupal website, but I won't go into that really deep. Then we'll get in, again, going higher in complexity, more power, you get into what they call the front-end frameworks. These are libraries, tools that have pre-built components in them. Common ones are Bootstrap, Angular, Vue, and I'll show you an example of Bootstrap if I have enough time. And then I'm going to end with, and I want to get to it quickly, is the AI assisted, and you'll notice some of the names here will be new to you. That's because there's a whole bunch of people coming out that are utilizing UI, and I'm going to show you how powerful it is and how I believe everything that I show you prior to that is probably going to be wiped away as obsolete within I don't know, a year or so. It's pretty profound. Then I'll get into website analysis and performance tools. You can build a website, it can look nice, it's got great layout and everything else. But unless you test it, load test it, stress test it, check it on phones, and using tools, you're not really going to know if you got a good website. And if it's slow, that's one of the major metrics for search engine optimization. And if your website is slow or it has errors on it, and these analysis tools are picking it up, those same analysis tools or the macros within those are being used inside Google's algorithms. And if you've got problems with your website, it's going to be dropped in the ranking faster than anything else. Errors and slow speed. So let's get into the next one. Um, Very quickly, what inodes are, you typically don't deal with them, but for us with VR, when we're dealing with high resolution, multi-tiled, things, this becomes a very significant problem for you and will prevent you from using certain solutions, certain providers. So what is an inode? Very simple. In a Linux file system, it's tracking the data blocks and the permissions and, well, owner group permissions, the when was it last accessed, the metadata, if you will, for that file. Usually that's not a big deal, but again, we can produce tens of thousands of tiny JPEG files in a streamed image. That information all has to be maintained on the server. Hosting providers, when you're on a shared server, they don't like that because you're going to drag the server down. So I'll show you in a second how that comes up. It's somewhat hidden in hosting provider. It's in their terms of service, but you need to know about it because it can bite you very badly and can get you kicked off of a server as well. So the other one is iframes. I think a lot of people know about what an iframe is, but the reason that iframe is important for us here is that some of the solutions, you will not be able to place your VR content on it. You'll have to reference it externally using an iframe. So an iframe is just displaying a website within a website. It does introduce issues, though. It is a pretty heavy load on a server. You also have some security issues with it. So it's not necessarily the greatest way to do it, but it is one of the most common ways of doing it. So now I'm going to get into compression, and I'm going to be hopping in and out a lot of demos and stuff. So I'm going to hop out of this and go to PowerPoint. I want to just show you, I mean, I think we all know this, but we're dealing with JPEG images at the end, or we're displaying JPEG images, whether it's cubic or sliced or whatever, they're still JPEG images. And the best workflow or best practice is for each individual image, you can fine tune how you export it. In Photoshop, most people will go and they'll do save as, right? And so you do save as, and then it gives you, if I do a JPEG, it'll give me options, right? 1 to 10. Okay. That's not as powerful as if you go under and you do save. I remember this. Sorry, I'm going to do the hotkeys because I can't remember it. Okay, so this is the save as, or it's the legacy. It's under export, export as, save for legacy. But here you have the ability to look at the image to fine tune the compressions. But I'm going to go ahead and cancel this because I want to get back to just the results of. So this is the raw image coming in. It's at 90.2. It's a 8192 by 4096. That's a pretty good size for equirectangular images. You never use a PNG. That's not an efficient, but just for kicks, I put it in here, and I'm going to toggle them off. You don't really see much of a difference, but you're still at 33 meg for that one. Next one is Photoshop exporting it out just with a 10. So it's at its near maximum quality. And again, you're not seeing much of a difference in the quality. Now I'm getting up to 8. I'm starting to see some artifacts coming up. If you use some of the online compression tools, some of the more aggressive ones, here's one like tiny JPEG, you can see I really get too much. And that's text. Depending upon the image, if you zoom out, it may not be as noticeable. When I'm toggling off, you're not seeing the difference as much. So, and then the final is a coming out of Photoshop, introducing a blur and things like that. But the point here is that when you go to a studio or an online thing, when you go to a builder, and something else is exporting out your images, it's using a standard compression across everything. You may get a little bit better compression if you go through hand by hand. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out, and let's go back to this. That zoom window's in the way. And keep going. I'm going to, well, I'll go to full screen. Okay, so this is now, given that the inodes is such an important thing because we produce, like if you're, I can produce tours that have 300,000 tiles in them if they're a very large tour. And so in this column, these are the major hosting providers, and I kind of arranged them in cost, but you'll notice over here in the cost column, the range is going from a shared server up to, in most cases, it's a dedicated server. And so the same thing is occurring here. So for hosting your site, for a shared site, I can have up to a 400,000 inodes. If I move to I think in their case, it's a VPS. So I have a limit of 2 million for my things. And then the storage is 100 gig to 200 gig. I've never really had a problem with storage with I don't think our stuff is that large. It's really just the file count that counts. Um, I put some of the links in here, but you can go through and look at them. DreamHost is a good one. That's a popular one. And you can see that you're unlimited on the inodes, even on a shared server. And 50 gigabytes is more than enough storage. So that's a pretty good one to go from a DreamHost. I'm using InMotion. They're a little bit more expensive, but I'm on a dedicated server. And they don't care if you're on a dedicated server, because if you're slowing your traffic down, it's just your own site. But that doesn't mean that your website performance isn't bad. And so this inode is important. And sometimes when you tile something, if you have a real estate tour and there's nothing in it where people are going to be zooming in and reading text or whatever, if you're trying to produce that at like 15,000 pixels or 20,000 pixels and you're creating this multi-tiled, look at it and see, does it really make sense? Do people really zoom in that far? Maybe a better choice is to drop it down to, an 8, 9,000, and you always want it divisible by 2, but an 8 or 9,000 pixel image, and maybe you keep it in a cubic format, so it just has the 6 faces that it's dealing with. A couple things to note to watch out for on hosting providers. Almost all of them, it seems to be the industry model, is they use introductory pricing. So these numbers right here, 3 to 10, they usually for a year, there's a couple that have a 3-year, but after the year, most of them double, or, it's a significant jump in price. So make sure you understand that you don't end up getting charged. Yeah, and that's read the terms of service very carefully. There are some of these hosting providers, they say, like a DreamHost, they say no inode limit. But if you're on a shared server and you start degrading the service, they can kick you off without giving you your money back. You violated the terms of service. And the inode is so important to their performance of that server that it's not listed as a feature, it's listed as a term of service, because they want the ability that if you violate that term of service, they're kicking you off the server. They don't want to mess around with it. They got to get you off that shared server because you're dragging everybody down. Now looking into getting into the libraries or platforms, the big ones. I'm going to go through and show you some samples, because this is kind of important in that when you use these libraries, you sometimes give up the ability to compress your own image. And because they're a platform trying to make a profit, and that bandwidth, that load is important to them, they will compress your image for you to a pretty aggressive level. And so just to explain on this, if you're building a website on a server and you do not have the ability, like you're using WordPress or one of those, and it is not set up, it doesn't have the plugins or extensions to display the VR content on that server, you'll have to link to it. The VR will have to be running off of another server, and you'll link to it and pull it into your website using an iframe. So a lot of times you'll place the content either on one of these libraries, and in some cases you can do it off of a Google Maps. You can't do it on some of the others. But I'll show you, if you're just interested in sharing your VR, how some of the social medias that they can be a free option for you. So I'm going to escape out of this, and I want to just, oh, I gotta to get the links to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the same image that has been loaded up to these various solutions. And I'm not an expert in any of these solutions, so I don't want to say, oh, this is a bad one. I'll point out differences in compression, but it's very possible that you could go in and adjust that. So I don't want to trash them or anything like that. So this is the same image you're going to see in all of them. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to point out something right off the bat off of 360 cities, is that they're adding in links to surrounding. They're trying to build a community so your panorama sits within other things. They're linking to, I mean, I'm in the Air and Space Museum, but they're linking, this is from the natural history. It may not be that great for me. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okay, this is as far as I can zoom in. And you can see some of the, when I'm looking at compression and determining whether or not I've been too aggressive on it, I like to get this kind of a scene where I've got some text and then I have an opaque surface next to it, because a JPEG compression routine will try to take areas of the same color and index them as one color, and you'll start to see the blocking and the artifacts. When it comes to text, it has a real tough time with edges, and so you get a lot of artifacts along the edges. So looking at this image quality here, let me go back to my presentation. And now I'm going to look at Cloud Pano. Cloud Pano is a very popular one, and I'm using a preview. Same image, and I'm going to zoom in. Now their controls are a little bit, sorry, they're a little bit more wonky. Okay, so now I've zoomed in. Notice the difference. Definitely a better quality image, not nearly as much artifacting on both the opaque and this surface. I don't like the controls are way too fast on it, but my guess is you can adjust that. So if you're going to the point here, let me complete this. The last one, I don't have I have Panel 2 VR, but I didn't have time to set up. And again, you have to pay for these. So these would be, if you have a website and you've been doing your virtual tours in Panel 2 VR and you're going the iframe method, then you're going to have to pay for a hosting provider and a website, and you're going to have to pay for a second hosting things. So the costs combined together a little bit more. Kula is another very popular one. Popular because it has a zero. You can post your images for free. And notice the controls are sluggish in comparison to the Cloud Pano. But if I zoom in, you'll notice, okay, I can't zoom in any closer than that, which means that they've taken my image and they've resized it a little bit, would be my guess. And you can also notice they've got a pretty aggressive compression, the artifacting and the other stuff on here. This could be because I'm on the free version. Maybe if I pay for a version, I go up. But the point is that when you're looking at these, test them out. They all have trials. Load up your images, look at the tour, zoom in, make sure the compression's right, make sure the controls, make sure everything works. I've included tutorials here. So click on these and it'll pull up. It would be the best video that I could find that showing the interface and how it was put together. It's one thing to go in and explore with an interface, but to evaluate a program, you really want to see a professional, showing you a demo of these are what you can do with this program. Then now the last are, oops. Okay. The last is the social media. These are examples of, I like Google Maps. I think that it has a pretty decent quality and it's free. And I think I've got maybe 6,000 panoramic images that I put up over it. This is one that I did. I was working for, I like this because I brought this up because this was a mistake. You can see I thought I was out of the window, but there I am. But I did this work for Mass Interact. They're one of the larger Google virtual tours. And yeah, it's a nice place to store your images. And the nice thing about it is up here you have the three dots. Oh, I go back. I forget how you embed them. There's share or embed image. So when you put an image on Google, you'll have either the link, the one we're going to want is embed. And so you can embed that into your website. Going back to PowerPoint. Facebook, you can place, this is a Facebook image, and the quality is pretty rough. They really compress it pretty heavy. But it is a way in which you can share, but there's not much you can do with it. You can't add hotspots to it or link to it, but it is a method in which you can share. YouTube is an interesting one. YouTube does 360 videos, right? It doesn't support 360 panoramas, but you can open a video editor, put a single frame, and then just I create like a 1 minute movie. So this is a 360 degree, and I can go full screen on it. I think I'm in HD quality. So again, not very good quality, but this is a video. It's being just coming off of YouTube. YouTube has much better revenue and things like that options for you. So but I mean, it really crushes the image. But that's how you can create. And if you don't know how to do that, go ahead, and I have my contact information on the PDF. Write me an email and I'll point a tutorial out how you do it. But it's pretty simple. You just pull up a frame and create a movie with that same frame going. The last one is that it's not really a panorama. I think it's kind of I liked it. It's a way in which you just put the 4 cubic faces up, and because you're allowed to, so it's a way in which you can do the space. So this was something where I was putting up something on a Metropolitan Museum of Art, and I was just playing around with here on Instagram how the person could go through just looking at the cubic faces. But let's see, let's get back to this guy. So now getting up, increasing in, again, the complexity and the power, you get into the content management systems. WordPress is one of the most popular, and I've listed the pros and cons for these, and just keeping it very high level. WordPress is easy to, it's beginner friendly, so the learning curve isn't that steep. It's very customizable. It can be fairly cost effective. It's built for producing commercial websites, so you can add keywords and all kinds of stuff throughout it. And because it's so popular, you have a lot of resources for it. That's also a problem, is because it's one of the most popular ways to build websites, it's the biggest target of hackers and stuff. So if you build a WordPress website, you have to if you throw it up as just a default website, it's going to get hacked. You gotta put some extra security on it. You gotta be careful with it. It's also limited out of the box. If you get a WordPress site and you get some free template and you throw it up, I guarantee you're not going to be happy with it. It's not going to have all the features you need, and you're going to have to go out and buy some plugins or buy some premium template. And so WordPress is deceptive in that it's low cost to get in, but you start realizing that you got to buy a plugin for this, a plugin for that, and they start to conflict. And it's kind of it's a great entry level tool, but it runs out of room pretty quickly if you want to do really powerful stuff with it. So you won't see giant companies using WordPress. They'll start to go to more secure, more controlled, and that'd be Joomla is not necessarily that. Joomla is kind of a new one, but Drupal would be a big one. So if you're going to go, I recommend, actually, I'm going to recommend the next step. But if you're going with a content management system, think very carefully about what is your technical expertise, what's the budget, what kind of complexity you're going to get into with this, and then what are your long term. For us, it's not quite as important, but if you are a business and you envision growing and growing, and you're going to have divisions and you're going to start doing your HR online, WordPress isn't going to make it for you. Now, getting into the final, well, AI is the final, but if you're coding, if you've got some experience in coding, and I would tell you to when it comes to like Bootstrap, you can figure it out. It's not that difficult. And all of these are nice in that they have pre-built UI components. So they'll have image carousels or menu things or a social media footer, and you can you just grab the sections of code and kind of piece them all together. Um, Bootstrap is good. It's a very fast development. There's a lot of resources out there for you. But it does have the potential to bloat your website. It pulls in a lot of libraries. So you'll have a relatively small piece of code on your website, not a lot of lines of code, but there'll be a couple of library includes at the start that you'll see. I'm going to show it to you here in a second when we get to the end of the website, how those libraries are pulling in resources can really slow a site down. And not too much to talk about. I don't think a lot of us would be doing a React or Angular or Vue, but these are the more powerful, and you can build very nice websites out of these. How am I doing on time? Okay, cool. I'm going to hop out just for a second. I want to show you the, oh, I got to exit again. What's the deal here? Okay. Yeah, show you. Okay. What I'm going to show you is if you understand or you spend a little bit of time to learn how to program with these front end things, you can start to download them. And this is one of the site I like. This is a kind of a fun site I like. It's called Envato. And in Envato Elements, it's a subscription, but you can type in here if you click under more, you'll end up having templates and you can see that here's CMS templates. So if you can get an entire website in Drupal, Joomla, these other ones. Shopify is also a very powerful upcoming one. Here's WordPress, but I'm going to go to, oh, I think I can just go to web templates. And I think, let me just pull one up. So this is an entire website that's been built. I can do a live preview of it. And so it's, oh, it has multiple portfolios of it. Okay, so here's the website, right? It's got all this stuff in it. And it's all filled out. Well, if I go back, I can download this. I'm just going to drop it into a thing. And it's going to download this entire site for me. And here there's all the documentation that explains how to do it. But here's the template for how to build this white. If I double click on this, it's pulling up this template. Now, the pictures aren't here, it just has placeholders. But if I know how to do the code, I'm going to open it just with TextMate. This is the code. So you would just work on this file. You would come in and change things. You can move sections around. It's not really that difficult. But you have these abilities to download all these pre-made websites. So it's a full website, and then you're just modifying it. I prefer that method of building them, but there's something new that's coming, and it's the AI enhanced ones. So I keep getting the Zoom window in the way. Okay, so you recognize some of these are brand new companies are coming out. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pull up the samples and you can see the cost. So these are complete hosting solutions, but these are websites. If I don't know if you could pull VR into them, or, you might have to use it as an iframe, but this is a sample where I just told an AI engine, create me a virtual tour I'm doing something with a virtual West Virginia, create this website. It creates the entire website for me, pulls in pictures. It's doing the text. So you can see rather than just filler text, it's using an AI tool to start to fill in things about it. Now it's fairly nice. And so I can go in now, and it's a fully functional website with all the stuff in here. And it's in a builder. So if I go back to the PowerPoint and click on Builder, I think I hit Edit Website. So, and this is standard. All of the website builders look like this. They all operate the same way. You'll have a list of tools over here on the side. As you roll over the various elements, there'll be blocks. Sometimes they'll call them sections. You can add something in here. You can edit it. You can click on things and just start changing the text. Um, you know, test. And then if you say that, and it's saving it on your site. So so it's an AI tool that builds the whole thing for you. And as you're working in here, as you add pages, or I'm not sure how to do it on this one, but you can alter this text and look at various drafts of it. So you're allowing the AI engine to start drafting all of your text for you and ghostwriting. It's a very powerful workflow in that way. Let me close that one out, close that one out, close that one out. Okay, let me close that one out. So this is another one, 10-win. I was pretty impressed with this one. I don't have a builder for this one, but this one, again, an entire website built. In this case, I said, build a website for selling Google virtual tours. And that's all I did. And so, oh, yeah, that's all I did on this one. And it's pulling in, it's a full website services about contact. It's got your call to action, and it's pulling in, and it's doing a pretty good job building up a website. So I would go through these if I had a project, and I would change the images, revamp the text and the rest of it. And I'd be done pretty quick with this, but I would also be paying, that's not that bad, right? 13, 28 a month. I would want to check with these guys on the inodes and things like that. Or if this was going to be my website and I was going to pull the content from somewhere else, then I wouldn't need to worry about it. Wix, you probably have seen commercials on them. Wix was quite good. They did a good job. So this is theirs. I was asking it again, creating 360-degree virtual tours to explore West Virginia. That's the state I live in. And it's now created this. It's a nice looking website. It's got pictures, plans, and pricing groups. And it's placing in products and things like that. And it's pretty wild how it does. These are all pictures dealing with virtual 360 photography and West Virginia. And it's pretty wild stuff. Okay. Oh, I'm going really fast. The builder. Let's look at the builder here for Wix. So here you saw the website. Again, if you're using a website builder, they're almost all the same way. Tools off to this side. As you roll over things, you see the option to add sections, to edit them. You can do quick edit. You can add in, change the colors out, change the images. So it's just a standard drag and drop connection. And nice thing is you do have some access to the code in this one, so it's a little bit more versatile. I'm going to finish early. I was so nervous about getting through all this. I'll go back and play with some more things. Okay, back to the presentation. This last one, AI Studio. I'll take my time on this one. Oh, I should have it already open. Yeah, okay. So here it is already open, and let me see if I can take this to full screen. So this is a Google AI Studio. It's in a preview mode right now. You should definitely be checking it out. It's ai.google, or yeah, ai.google.com. And you can see it's a 1 million token count AI engine. If you don't know what that means, a token, it's all of these AI tools are eventually going to be subscription-based services. It's going to be like your new cell phone bill or your new cable bill, because it's going to be so important to have these. And you're going to be paying by the amount of information, and that is a token, and a token is about 4 characters. And so the amount of information that you're trying to process is what you will get charged. And I'll show you the charges for this that has occurred for what you're seeing right here. So what can you do with this AI engine? I'm going to work up to it. I'm going to kind of show you how you can take an AI engine, you can train it. I'm not going to worry about temperature. That doesn't matter. You can see the count here. I'm up to 89,000 tokens from what I'm going to show you that I've done here. And it's all VR based. You have Flash is a very fast model. Pro is a little bit slower, and that's their most advanced model that they have right now. And again, it's in a preview mode because they want to get everybody hooked, and you will be when you see the power of what this thing can do. And I have a feeling just from what I've been doing the last few days that this is going to be how I'm going to be building virtual tours from now on. So I've taken the KR Pano, if you're not familiar with it, it's a VR viewer, there's a graphics library to it, but there's no front end to it. It's not really a drag and drop. That's always been a kind of a holdback. I believe that KR Pano produces, at least in my opinion, produces the cleanest, best looking, fastest. I've never found anything else that is as small of a footprint and does as nice of a job displaying 360 imagery as KR Pano does. The problem is that the documentation for it and how you use it and stuff, it's not very friendly. Well, so I take all the documentation. If you've been to KR Pano, I can take my time on this. Yeah, I'm not being able to get out of. So if I go over to KR Pano and I go to their documentation, I've got this very long documentation. I take all that documentation, I export it out, I just do save, save as a PDF, export it as a PDF, and I load that PDF up to this AI engine, and I say, what is this? And took it 26 seconds to tell me that it appears to be a section from KR Pano, and it's giving me a breakdown of the content. It's describing what the elements are, a little more friendly survey of it. And then I say, okay, well, can you teach me how to use it? And it says, yep. And it starts to understand the basics, starts to add in code pieces for me, how to create a simple panorama. It's got the little code, adding how to add hotspots to it. Now, but this isn't much of an advance over the current documentation, right? It's just kind of putting it into a little more presentable, a little more readable format for me. Okay. So the next thing I did was I fed it, going back to my website, and let me show you my website here so you know what I'm talking about. This is my current website. All right, so virtual tours, pretty standard. It's a bootstrap based website. So I take the code from that is so this is my website. How many lines of code is it? 369 lines of code. It's a bootstrap site, so it's done in the sections. You can see the sections, and this is why I said I don't think it's that hard to build in these. If you get past I don't like the program, you shouldn't have that attitude. It's just showing. This is just my get in contact, right? So this is like the footer. It's just a section. I could pull that out and put that on any page. If I go back to, I could actually, let's copy all this text, just for kicks. I'll do something here in a second. If I go back to this now and I said, so I've uploaded that HTML document and I said, can you improve this code? I said, let's improve your code. So it goes through and it's finding, I'm not using element wrappings correctly. It's explaining some best practices things. It's asking me to minify the CSS that I've got in there. I mean, it's a lot of improvements, and it goes ahead and rewrites. It improves my code for me. So here's that same page fixed. And I tested it. I exported this out, posted it, and it's performing better. It's faster. It has better. It added ARIA accessibility labels throughout this as well. So just, and what was it? It gives you, when you ask it to do something, it'll tell you how long. It took it 215 seconds to rewrite my website and fix all there wasn't errors with it, but it clearly did things that I was able to show that had improved quality of this. Let's keep going down. Okay, so then I asked it, what is this? Oh, now I fed it I'm kind of impressed with this. So I fed it the most complex UI interface that I've ever designed for a virtual tour, and that's one of the Smithsonian's. And so I uploaded the entire thing and said, what is it? And it knows that it's a KR pano. It's telling me the structure. It's pointing out the include files that I'm using. And I thought this one was crazy right here. I use a toolbox, but the toolbox doesn't say what it is. It went in and looked at the toolbox and was able to tell me that it's a tool that I use for moving my hotspots and adding objects. So it was able to understand, it went into that toolbox and understood what it is. So I've uploaded the file. It's going out and reading each of the include files. Menu settings, startup actions, talking about the scene definitions, the pop-ups. And I'm like, well, okay, well, can you clean up the formatting and add comments to this code? And it's gone through, and this is my style of doing commenting. So it learned from how I was writing my comments, and it's gone through and commented all of my code. And if you were learning how to use KR Pano, you didn't understand it, you could take somebody's website, you could take my website, you could take a sample and dump it into here and start asking it questions about it. And it's able to set the preview. I didn't tell it to do that. So it's understanding the code. It's starting to learn from it. So let's go down. It does my whole, oh, okay. So then I said, remove all comments and minify the code. And you can do that with the tools, but if you don't do that, you can shave off some of your file sizes by minifying the code, your CSS and things like that. And you're trying to get down, you're trying to shave off milliseconds. So that does become important. So then I was, excuse me, and then I said, create a comprehensive white paper on design considerations and best practices for building a KR Pano-based virtual tour, include code samples where possible. And here it goes. It's, introduction, planning and conceptualization, storyboard and flow. I'm not going to read all of this, but I'll tell you that it's quite good. It's talking about the initial setups of things, the panorama types that I should use. I mean, it really knows it's good. Cubic faces, yeah, they're efficient for large, allow multi-streaming. Cube strips are good for single image, small stuff. They're actually faster than cubics because you're loading one image, not six. On and on and on. It's going down to hotspots. So I can use this AI tool to start to improve. And I'm started in on some early testing. And can this AI tool build a KR Pano virtual tour? Can I say, here's the images? One of the limitations it's going to have is for some reason the AI it has a problem with equirectangular images. And so you can see here, I'm trying to use it to create alt tags for this image, and I'm getting errors. And I try to give it just can't seem to do it. That's kind of the end of where we're at on that one. And oh, good. Okay, 13 minutes left. So I highly recommend that you download the AI Studio and just play with it. And oh, let me go back to there's AI Studio, and then there's Vertex AI, or they're in the process of changing over, but these free previews will eventually lead to this. And you're seeing that what I just showed you using that tool is worth 8 cents. I got charged 8 cents for the amount of information, the tokens that I was having it process and the time. And right now they have 300 file credits that they're giving you for a preview. But if you end up using this tool, you're going to having a billing account coming in. You're now incurring charges on your account. That makes me a little nervous, but That's what you have to pay for the tools, I guess. Last thing I want to show you though, just spend just a quick little time and we'll open it up to some questions, is you you can build a web. So when you design a website, you build it, it looks and good, it functions and stuff, but you really have to test the back end of it. And it's a lot of times I rarely have built a website, put it up, and then not found issues with it when I got into this type of performance testing. And I'm including some of the tools, the major tools for it, but I'm going to show you the one that's in Chrome, and that's really one of the it's cheap, it's free, and it's one of the more powerful ones. But the things that you'll want to look for is obviously how long does it take your page to load, the time to the first byte. I like to see the first, I think it's called first paint. It's when the first thing pops up, and people, I think it's around 2.5 seconds that from data that if you click on a website and you see a blank screen, nothing's happening, 2.5 seconds, you're out of there and you are never coming back to that website. So you can't have that. So you need to arrange how things are coming up. And that's where what's called a waterfall chart. I'm going to show you that one here. That's a very powerful one for understanding how your web page is loading. You also, as developers, we have the nicest machines, the best nice connections. Um, but that's not representative of your audience. Your audience is most likely on cell phones, um, not on, they might be 4G or they're being throttled and stuff. They don't know that they're being throttled, right? So your content's coming up very slowly on their phone, but that's because they're over their limit on something, their data, and they're being throttled. So they have a lot of these testing tools have the ability to throttle it, to load test it, stress test it, do things like that. Um, there's very powerful ones that you can get into if you're doing this all the time. And there's some free, and that's SEMrush is, I didn't have it on here, but SEMrush is one of the most powerful ones. You'll be spending $5,000-6,000 a month on that tool. So that tool is for big corporations. It's not one that's going to be good for you, though it does have a 7-day trial period, and I would recommend using it. The Search Console is a very good one, and then also the validator is a very good one for looking at is your code correctly written. Let me hop out of this. I want to show you. I'm going to pull up a Chrome. I'm going to go to my website. It can be any website. And you can right click and do inspect, and that'll bring up the developer tools. Or you can go under view, developer tools. When you pull the developer tools, I've already selected this, but click on the network tab, and then you have to reload the site again because the developer tools monitor the current traffic. Because you've loaded the website and then started the tools, you're not tracking anything left. But this is called a waterfall chart, and I'm going to pull this over a little bit so you can see it. So it's showing in time. I'm going to, I already have clicked disable caching. So it's seeing the website for the first time. Nothing's preloaded. So when I hit reload, this is called the waterfall tree. It's loading the site and it's showing me all the pieces that it's loading. I like to do time. I'll click on time, click it twice, and it shows me what's taken the most time. It's also important to look at when things are first popping up. So I'm loading, and I've got an issue with this, guys. I'm loading style sheets and things. I'm loading all of this stuff, but nothing's appearing on the screen yet. I need to play around with this. So I'm loading up some type of an image or something happens. Uh, I use a hero video. Those typically can be a problem, but it's not taking the longest time. And I want to find it though. And it should be a longer block. It should be taking it longer to load it. There it is right here. It's loading fast. Uh, yeah, that's a pretty good load speed, 95 milliseconds. So, but I also, let me do the time again. I'm picking up, I've got some CSS that's really I mean, it's causing me some, it's one of the longer loading ones. So I probably would want to go look at these libraries. Am I using the minified ones? Am I pulling in themes that I don't need, or all of, so this is how you would analyze the website to look at how it's loading, the speed of it and stuff. I don't think, I'm not going to cover a lot of these other tools. You could, again, you can go back to, oh, AI Studio. So I could do right. You usually have to tell it comprehensive or expansive. For some reason, the AI engine likes to do very precise, right? A comprehensive, oops. Yeah, it figures it out. Tutorial on how to use Chrome Dev Tools. Here it goes, So it just goes through, and I could say provide a step by step guide on waterfall analysis. I can't type today. Using Chrome Dev Tools. So there you go. So if you wanted to use, goes through and tells you step by step. The last thing I want to cover is this thing, kind of an extension of the whole everything's about to change again, as usual. But these are pretty profound changes. And Google has their annual conference. It's called I/O. It was held Tuesday, Wednesday, the 14th. These are some of the videos that came out of it. And I've selected these. If you click on these, it will pull it up. And so I have the keynote speech, which covers everything. I have the latest in web UI, and I'm going to just pop. We have plenty of time. So turn that off. And I want to just go forward to here. She's showing scroll-driven animations. So in a lot of the standard websites, I'll just let it roll. You can see that, a lot of the boots.
And reverse an animation.
Yeah.
So as we scroll forward, you see that the animation.
I'll turn it off. But these are just new libraries that are coming out from Google, highly efficient, that are allowing you to create these CSS scroll-driven animations. So that's a very popular technique in websites, is as you scroll, things are coming in from the left and side. This is the whole next generation of that type of content. And I kind of want to reemphasize that if you have this attitude with virtual reality that you don't like to program, or you don't want to get into the technical, you need to get past that, because these tools they're so powerful that, competitively, if you're a business, you're going to need to use these. You're going to have to be able to produce things this fast and using these types of workflows. The other one that I think is a really cool one is this one right here. We like to use, I'm going to scroll through just quickly so you can see what they're talking about. So these are the new, Google has for the first time released its mesh renderings, and they've been taking high-res 3D scans of cities. It's not all the world's cities, but it's like 2,000 of them so far. And you can do pre-rendered, you can do fly-throughs, you can use these in your, if you have a Google map, you can have a 3D Google map inside your virtual tours. So I would look at this tool or this presentation. The other one, this talks about what I was just talking about and how you test workflows, and the AI engines are very, very good at that. AI assisted development workflow, a little bit on that. And then this one is very very interesting. Actually, I found it very fascinating. And it's a way in which it's talking about, again, how you're painting and how you're getting content up, but they're taking they're building sites that they went from, a second or two to like 10 milliseconds. And they're using, they talk about CDN or distributed networks, to where one of the ways you can get the speed up is that you build a website. And if you have an international audience, somebody on either side of the globe who's trying to reach your content on a server on either side, that actually starts to add that latency in the wiring, even though it's near the speed of light, it still starts to add up. And so a lot of the big companies they'll use what's called a CDN. And I believe some of these, I'm thinking Jimdo, one of the features is that when you're distributing your website, it is on a CDN network. So it's much faster that way. And I think that I'm going to end there. We're at an hour, so I'm going to end there. Open it up for discussion. And our next webinar, it'll be on June 22nd. I think we're going to have some people come in and talk about a very specific, very cool project. So it'll be a content. We'll look at, showcase kind of a piece. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look at the chat now. Let's see. Do you use Webflow for VR? I don't know what Webflow is. So the answer to that is going to be no. I should have said up front, I'm self-taught. I'm a mechanical engineer. I've had some experience with programming, but that was a long time ago. It was C++ and things like that. I have no photography background. I'm self-taught on this stuff. So my terminology might be off, or I definitely will not understand some tools and stuff. I don't mind being, corrected or being told. Where do you host your private 360 photos and Google Photos? I like to, that's a very good question. Let me show you something that I did, where if I go to, and if I type in Visual Construction is the name of my company, and I pull it up, and it has, I'm going to go to, sorry, I got the QA in the way. Let's look at maps. And it's going to pull up, this is me. And what I've done is you can register, I live in I have a business, this is my home, but you can set up a Google business as your address, and then you get the profile, and I'm just putting photos on it. I don't think I put any 360 photos up here, but you can set up a Google business profiles. It's called a Google business profile, and you can set that up to just be in your house, or if you actually have a business, set it up, and then you can start to, I could have added media. I think I've got a photo. Yeah, I could add a 360 photo and it would just show up as a 360 photo in my Facebook. Sorry, my Google Maps. So set up a Google Maps, you just enter the address and apply for it. Let's go back to questions. Let's see. Do you have to be okay? Well, sign up for the wait list. I'm a developer, so thank you for pointing that out. I might have just been granted access to that because I'm a developer. But that's a good point. If you're working in this realm, apply to be just become a Google developer, an Apple developer, even if you're not developing for them, if you don't have to pay, and then you apply for beta programs. And when you're invited to those beta programs, provide some feedback to them. They will appreciate that, and then you'll start to get a reputation as being a good beta tester, and you'll start to get people offering things. I sorted the above, thanks. Hello, Lauren. We do use virtual tours with some creative solutions. For example, we connect WordPress plus 360 to, that's a pretty common one. I hear a lot of people are using the Pano to VR and they create their website in a WordPress, and then they embed it with an in-frame, iframe. Good. Yeah, that's good. Good website design or for businesses, that call to action, it should be on the front page. If you've captured their attention, what do you want them to do? And for a Google business tour, thing like that, you want them to schedule, you want them to contact you, because with people's attention span, if you don't make that close, if you don't deal with them there, they're on to something else. Reverse tables in restaurants. Oh, reserve tables. That's a good idea. Yeah, making the tours interactive to where they add value to the business. Virtual tours can be a sunk cost for a business. They'll get a bump in their traffic, but then they don't see anything. If you're making that their scheduling system, or people can reserve a table, that's a really good idea. Like Turner Panorama, and you need to have hot spots on the tables, and they can pick that table. Makes it relevant. GPT-40. I have not tried GPT-40 for KR Pano. I'm going to play with that as well. I think from what I can see, some of the biggest investments in capital is in this AI. It's phenomenal how much money is being dropped into it. And the two big players, let me go back to the AI studio here. I should have a better. Oh, actually, no, it's the Vertex one. Sorry. Vertex, there it is. I think it's this one. Yeah, and then there's somewhere where there's what's called a modal garden in here. Just search on modal garden and in Google, and there's a place in here where you can see all of the engines. Gemini is just one of them. Chat GPT is a type of, but there's generative image ones, there's coding ones, there's different models, and there's a tremendous race on them. They're moving very, very fast. But I'll try GPT-40. I've heard it's pretty phenomenal. They released GPT-40, the release was a few days before Google I/O. So they're kind of, those are the two that are competing against each other pretty heavy. Let's see. Have you tried using a VR tour generated in 3D Vista as the website? I have not. I forgot about 3D Vista. They're really good. They've been doing some nice stuff, and I apologize that I'm not aware of what their solution is at the moment. So I would definitely, if you're out there doing a trade study on this, add them to the PDF, the things that I've got listed in there. But I did a webinar a while back where I looked at their software, and I was pretty impressed with the features that they're adding. Don't know. I'll have to give that a shot. Okay, let's go to the chat. Dun, dun, dun. I'm going to go all the way to the top here. Yeah, will the webinar be available as recorded? It will be available as recorded video, but you have to be a member to access those. And I highly recommend. Oh, it's already been answered. Sorry. And I recommend that. I don't think $50 is a big fee to get all the information that you get from people. Yep, people talking about. Yeah, I have a virtual tour. I don't know if I could show it to you. I don't have one from 93. Visual. I got too much stuff in the way. Oh, oh. I'm trying to remember what it was. Yeah, here it is. Virtual tour. I'll go back. Oh, no. Go back to the virtual tour. This is taken from, I think this was 98, 99. This is the bridge. I mean, I lived in Austin, Texas. I was working at IBM Research. Then that's where I first was introduced to VR. And it was called Hot Media back then. It was a Java-based tool, but I have another little virtual tour. These are all connected in a little virtual tour, but I'm surprised that the code still works after, 25 years. It's kind of a testament to it. Let's see, back to the chat. Nice classic. DigitalOcean for hacker level control, such as configuring number of that's kind of cool. I'll have to look at that one. Um, Waitlist, yes. Oh, thank you. And people liked it. Training is okay. Yeah, 3D is great. Okay. Oh, Wix. Okay, so this is a good question right here. I have some thoughts that the 360 trend is downward. You have this feeling as too. The nature of VR is that it does have a bit of an eye candy flavor to it and it has a wow factor, and that wow factor wears off. I remember early on when, people hadn't really seen it, they weren't aware of it, put a headset or Google Cardboard and they were, blown away by it. Google Cardboard right now, it's not that blown away. So you have to increase the value of it. The comment about being able to reserve chairs. That's why if you stick with just a builder or content management system, if you don't mature into learning how to code it yourself or how to customize it, you're limited in what you can do with it. And if you have really clever ideas about like reserving tables, you'd have to know how to possibly connect that to maybe a Shopify. They have scheduling modules or calendars. How would you connect that? And if you're using Wix or something like that, you can get it done, but you're probably going to have to hire somebody. And you can use, that's not difficult. I do WordPress and I have a limited understanding of WordPress and I don't worry about that. I can pay somebody $100 to fix the website. You can use people from around the world and it's pretty fast that way. What do you think about having the tours in the form of a play demo with YouTube videos instead of let's see, play demo with YouTube videos instead of that's interesting. Um, I'm intrigued by the YouTube videos because YouTube has a good revenue model for subscriptions. And could I place them up there? Could I convert my static panoramas into this 360 video and then start to connect them? Could I could I create a website where I'm using these 360 videos and I'm interacting them with it, but I'm encouraging a person to upload? Would that work towards my subscription or the payment method of YouTube? Don't know. Um, but I think one of the things I'm kind of trying to get across in this presentation is there's lots of ways to do things. And if you're creative, you can really have some fun with this stuff. And I think the AI engine is really interesting. And that probably a lot of, like, let's try this. What do you think about, let's go and copy that. Let's take it over and let's ask I'm pretty fascinated by this whole thing, this AI stuff. I think we're all going to be out of a job, or if you don't learn it, you'll be out of a job pretty quickly. And sign in. Oh, I didn't get it. As you can see, it's pretty, I'll read some of the stuff, well-produced videos. Well, you can, mm, yeah, I'm not, we have to go through that, but you can see. How can I see your tutorials? The tutorials or our webinars are on ivrpa.org. So I'm gonna turn my volume. And is there any more? Oh, got some more questions. Dun, dun, dun. Where is PDF? The PDF was in the chat. So go to the chat window and you should see it, the file uploaded there. If you don't, let me know. And again, my contact information is at the front. So, and I'm Lauren at IVRPA, sorry, Lauren Brando at IVRPA.org. What are the most important metrics which a person should think about when choosing a hosting for virtual tours? Thanks for answering advice. First of all is the inode, and just you can kind of get that out of the way because you don't want to end up on, on a website and then they come back and they say, hey, you're dragging the whole site down, we're kicking you off. The speed, I think, is a big one for the virtual tour. Does it load fast enough? Another really important one, it's kind of a subtle one, is look at the FTP restrictions for the hosting provider. Sometimes when you're using a builder or something like that, they have a restricted FTP window. Drupal is one that does that, where you're only allowed to upload 10, you can't upload a folder, and you can only upload like 10 files at a time. That's a killer. You can't upload your stuff with that way. We have let's see, my website is gradually built, hosting 2 terabytes of panoramas, many subchapters. I saw some demos go to the Google I/O. There's a look at the keynote there, but there is a speech in there somewhere where they talk about the AI engine's ability to rewrite old applications in new code, and it was phenomenal. They were loading up a very old, I think it was like I don't know, it was some old thing, and they said rewrite this in Python, and boom, just rewrites the whole thing as Python. So I would, if you're interested in that, I would take a look at could an AI engine reprogram all your code for you. Jim Cole, I would like to do virtual tours for small nonprofits who don't have sophisticated sites. Typically, uploading a full tour directory structure is an option. Yep, like I talked about. Assuming iframes can be embedded, would AWS hosting work as a backend since the bandwidth be so small? Very good. I didn't include AWS as a solution because it's very complex, in at least its pricing structure. It's kind of confusing. They talk about instances and buckets and things, but that's because AWS servers are used as true heavyweight professional servers. So, your Patreon or somebody, you're putting your things on an AWS server. So the AWS pricing systems and stuff, the way it's set up is set up for professional big enterprise stuff. If you understand how to do it on there, and there are some good tutorials on I think on the IVRPA forum, we might have some. I don't know if that's going to be, we're not going to bring that over to the new site, but there are a number of tutorials for how to set up an AWS site. That's probably the cheapest and cleanest, is to do everything on an AWS server and have a front-end framework. But if you're, doing something for small nonprofits and they don't have, they're just, they're going to be doing WordPress or something like that, embedding an iframe is the way to go. And AWS is probably a good solution for that, because then you would still control your compression and everything else. Okay, somebody's given us a thing, talking hologram. I'll take a look at it. I always love to look at new work. I think we learn off of each other. And that's the beauty of, encourage people to join this organization, is that you learn from others. And we're working in a field that moves so fast. We don't go look at books and stuff. You learn from each other, which was kind of sad for me that we didn't get to have a conference, because that's over my history, my life in this. The times at which I get is those conferences that you go to, I get a massive jump in my. Let's see. Awesome info. Thank you. Another person asked us, saying, again, it's IVRPA.org is the organization, and I recommend it. I like it. PDF is not in the chat. Let me try to put it up again. Maybe I put it up too early. There it is. Oh, sorry. I sent that scene. I sent that too. I need to send it to everyone. That might have been what I was doing. Okay, hopefully you guys have gotten that. I'll take a look at your website. I think we've answered all the questions. And Scott, do you want to come on and you have any other questions? We're kind of like 12 minutes, I guess, left. Anything any of the board members want to add or?
I am just going to say, wow, this was really information packed. And
Probably too much.
well,
It's
I
a
was just going to
survey.
say, even watching it live, I'm going to have to go through the whole thing again to pick up all that I missed the first time through. Very valuable.
Can we download the video? Because the one of the coolest features of that AI studio with a 1 million token, that's about an hour of video. So you can throw an hour of video into that engine and then tell it to provide a outline summary, what happened. The same things you'll get out of the AI for the Zoom, but because the AI Gemini is what they call a multimodal, you can upload video, text, sound, and it can process it. So the summary from a video using the AI Studio versus Zoom it would describe the images and the stuff that I had provided. I'll have to see. I'd like to do that. That would be interesting to go back at our old webinars and convert them over or produce PDF representations of them.
Indeed. Well, if we can do that, we will try to include that on the website with the videos.
One thing I wanted to just kind of throw out there we've talked about this a little bit and touched on it. It seems like for the niche that we're in, the builder for a website, like a Wix, something like that, is the most cost-effective way to do it. Most of us don't have the programming, and we don't want to learn it as much to do that. And then embedding and pulling in that iframe is the way to do it. But where you store that VR content becomes the issue. Building websites, and we don't build very complex websites. We don't have shopping carts and things like that. We just have a schedule or contact. It's just a form submission. It's pretty simple. And I'm wondering if, with us having a server or whatever, would that ever be an option, and that as an organization we could provide that capacity or that storage like Garden Gnome is doing in the rest? I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a complex thing, but
I don't think that we will ever go to the point of being able to be a hosting service for virtual tours or a lot of panoramas. One of the things that we will probably be doing is looking at adding the capability to upload a rectangular image and then display it as part of your portfolio on the website. We are building a new version of our website as we speak, and definitely a portfolio capability and a directory that people can look for VR content creators and basically contact you to hire you. That is going to be an important part of the new website. So having that ability, and then if you want to include a full virtual tour with links and hotspots and all that sort of thing, we will not be including that with our website, but through an iframe, you'll be able to include display of those sort of virtual tours within your IVRPA profile.
I wanted to, there's a question here about Code Canyon. Code Canyon and Envato are similar. I think they're owned by the same organization. But yeah, I highly recommend, I'm not pitching for them. I probably should be careful. I don't pitch for people, but Envato, I've really liked it in that you can have, this is the one I like. If you go under products, under Envato Elements, it's a subscription it's a yearly thing, 99, but you have, like maybe you were building a website on dancing and you've got photos, stock videos, you got music for it. And so and if you want, if you're not doing it, you just want to build a website quickly, you can do a monthly subscription at $34, and you can download, go in here more, you can download, maybe you're working off of WordPress. They have WordPress templates and themes. Let's pull up a theme. So these are all, a one-time $34. You can download any one of these. These are full websites. I can do a live preview on it. So this is a full website, and I can go through and using that Envato, I can change out all of these images very quickly and put sound in and the rest of it for $34. If you do it in a month, you can have professional built website with all the copyrighted, assets in it, no messing around with, you're using bad stuff. It's a good way to do it. And then I would say use the AI engine to fill out all the copy, have it fine tune the code for you. I'm not familiar with what Round Me is. Does any of the board members know what Round Me is?
Yeah, it was like Cooler. It was one of those sites where you build your tour online, and but they disappeared a while ago.
That, I guess that might be an issue with if you're using a builder like this 10Web or Jindo, brand new companies, and put all this time into it, and then poof, they go away. That's kind of a nice thing about WordPress is that it is a open source, so that keeps it going. But the problem with open source is that you reach a limited capability, and then you got to start paying for premium stuff. So WordPress, you will, whatever the price is that you see for WordPress, and you're like, oh, no, you're going to be spending a little bit more than that, because you're going to end up having to pay for some spam blocking stuff, and because it's just off the bat, it doesn't. Now you can build WordPress websites without having to buy any plugins, but
I like to use an offline web page builder. I use something called Nice Page because I find it pretty adaptable and I can tweak the code myself. That's just an alternative to something like Wix or these other things.
I mean, this is not the way developers are supposed to be doing it. I like this little thing called TextMate. It's just this small little footprint. It's not a development studio at all, but and I can work in Visual Studio or things like that, but they're too much for what I mean. We're not doing heavy duty programming in this. So a little text editor that just simply colorizes the text for me. I don't need autofill or things like that. And I'm thinking with the AI engine, I think I still had that copied, didn't I? Well, with the AI engine, I can have it start doing a lot of this stuff for me. And I'm curious if you could train an AI engine to actually build KRPano websites or templates for you. I don't know.
You could probably get it to do some coding for you, at least.
It's doing coding already for me.
Right.
And I'm going to play around with it and see if it can't learn from what I produced, or add hotspots to every scene, or it can do very impressive image recognition stuff. So I'm wondering if I could, add hotspots to every painting in the room. Would it be able to do that? Don't know. I think we're kind of reaching the end. Is there any other questions or discussion topics or anything? We got another one in the chat. Check the chat one more time. Cola. I've heard of that. Cola 360. Yeah, it's a trade study, right? I mean, what is it that you want to do? What's your budget? And then because there's not one best solution. So I can't say you should use a Drupal site. That's the best way to do it. It depends on what you're really trying to do here. Canon or Nikon? Oh, Sony. Good. Let's have a fight. It doesn't matter on any of them. And I would actually say that for when it comes to stitching and qualities, it's the lens that's going to matter a lot more than, because I have a Nikon and I was starting off with the Nikon 12-24 lens, the 2.8, which is a very common one. But if you use that indoors where they have the new LED lighting in museum, any new buildings will be using LED spotlighting and stuff. The lens flare off of that lens, I sold it. No good. And I have now a Tamron 15-30 lens. Tamron has a much better anti-flare coating on their lenses, which it wouldn't matter what I put on the back of that lens, Nikon, Sony, or whatever, the images were no good. And so I think that really the lens is you know, are you using a good lens? And do the following. I think most of us use PT GUI for your stitching, and we've done some past seminars on that. You can go back and look at those. But you look at if you're going to go do a virtual tour and you have a panoramic head in your camera, you need to set that up in an area where you've got, I'll put things on the walls that have text at different distances, focus charts, and I'll sit there and you dial that camera in a lab setting. I'll run it around and I'll put it through PT GUI and see what the stitching error is. I'll go to that panoramic head and I'll move it, you know, 1/10 of a millimeter. Do the process again. Does the stitching number move? And and it can take hours to do this, but you will fine tune that piece of equipment. And if you've looked at the stitching errors in PT GUI when I'm shooting with high-end museum stuff, 22,000 by 11,000 equirectangular images, I will, if I can get the stitching error to 4 or below, there will be no stitching errors in the image, and I don't Photoshop after that. So I'll focus on dialing the camera in, getting my stitching, getting the taking of the photography. So like I don't use a tripod just sitting on its leg. I use the tripod sitting on a dolly, and the dolly is locked to the floor, because the very movement of you walking around it and stuff, you can alter it the slightest bit. But I get that stitching number down to below 4. I don't look at the image. I don't need to. There will be no stitching errors in it. And as far as the workflow goes, that's pretty tremendous. Those few hours of dialing in my equipment saves me, you know, Photoshop editing. Let's see, you mentioned using hotspots for every painting and did a tour. Go through as I'm KR Pano. Whoever told you KR Pano is wicked, what they were telling you was they couldn't understand it. They didn't want to learn it. There is no doubt that KR Pano produces the highest quality, beautiful stuff, but it isn't friendly. It has no front end to it. But
it's also, I mean, the other thing we haven't mentioned is WebXR support, which is, you know, being able to use a virtual reality headset, which is KR Pano is perfect for.
yes, that's a very good one. I should have mentioned that. A lot of these builders and stuff, they do not have WebXR. So you are producing this and if most of your users are cell phones and stuff, it's not a very compelling thing. So being able to export, and in KR Pano, you just have a single button that pops it out. A lot of the builders have that as well. But if you're doing, you know, Google Maps does it, but Facebook doesn't. Only PT GUI to stitch. No, there's other ones. I like PT GUI just because of the community is so large, and also it's what I learned to use. It just works for me. It's pretty cheap, but there's other ones. It's kind of like HDR programs. There's a lot of different options for it. It's, you know, how do you like it? AI generated speech is great for making foreign language. Another good point here is that what I was showing you, that Gemini, that AI, I'm showing you in I don't need to pull it up. I'm showing you the console for the AI engine, but it's an API, meaning that I can add Gemini 1.5 into my applications. And one of the things I'm very curious about is we have one of our board members, Stephanie, her specialty is in accessibility, and she's been working on in a panorama as you're looking around and the view changes. You know, can you describe what that person is looking at based upon the view? Because other ways of doing it, you have a description for a flat image that the description covers the entire flat image. That's not the same as if when I'm in the room and I'm looking and I'm turning around, and can you have something that in real time as you're turning is describing what you're seeing? From what I've seen in the Google I/O, you look at that keynote speech, they have that ability now, and they're working on having that as a device only. I think they called it local or something like that, because all of the AI engines are cloud-based. So I'm having to connect and doing this stuff. but they're getting to where it's an embedded tool within your program. So a virtual tour could have the Gemini API added to it. Perhaps you could turn on a speech, a voice could be converted over. You can use, fake voices and stuff like that. But I see that these AI engines will find their way into, as guides. An AI engine would be able to tell you if you got lost, it would be able to tell you, you could ask it, you could talk to it and say, how do I get out of this room? And it could grab the panorama and say, turn to your left. Let's turn to the left and walk to the next scene or things like that. So I would definitely be looking at how AI might check. HDR or normal, I almost always do HDR. I almost always bracketed. I can't think of a time where I don't bracket. And sometimes I'll bracket simply to capture for efficiency. If I'm moving through a space that has wide changes in dynamic range, right? I'm going from the outside near a door into an auditorium. And I'm there for an hour, right? I want to just knock this out. I don't want to have to adjust, the lighting exposure for every room. Cards are cheap. You can load up tons of data. So shoot 9 bracketed shots, 2 stops apart. Set it so, I'll walk through a place, look at what's the worst, the brightest or the darkest, get your settings for that, set the bracket range so it covers those 2, and just march your way through the whole place, just shooting shots. And then when you get back, you can pull them up in Adobe Bridge or something, and you'll have 9 shots, and you can just grab the range that's correctly focused. So don't try to sit there with your camera and try to adjust exposure as you move through. Huggin, I saw, yeah, Huggin is a good one for stitching, open source. I don't, PT GUI is not that expensive, and I think it has a trial for it as well. If you are just dabbling into this, don't spend any money, right? If you're just curious about VR, go with Huggin and the 360 cities and things like that. Go for the free options if you like it. If you like it and you want to start doing this and stuff, then move your way up to a PT GUI or something like that. Avatar engines for embedding in a tour. Yeah, we actually did a webinar a while back where we talked about adding life to a VR, and we talked about all the options for doing that. And some of the programs, I'm trying to think of there's a Photoshop, sorry, an Adobe program where it does character animation. It's just phenomenal. Yeah, that's a very big one as well, is in VR, one of the things that's been missing in VR, because we're limited to it, is that guide, where are you at, being able to talk to something. We do the maps, we do doll houses and things like that, but it's a very complex spatial product or environment you're providing to somebody. In video games, you have, heads-up displays and radars, and you have all of these things to guide a person. Because when a person gets lost in a VR and they get confused, they're out of there. And so design considerations for VR are very important. If you have, a scene and you drop the person into the scene and they're looking forward, but the hot spots behind them to get to the next scene, they may not turn to get to that next scene. So as with all good content, before you take a shot, sit down with a piece of paper or however you want to do it and storyboard out what's going to happen. Visualize, how is the person going to walk through this? How are they going to enter this space? How are they going to walk through? What do I want to see them? And then arrange like when you drop them in, just off to the side, like if this is the window that I've dropped you in, just in view over here will be a hot spot. And maybe it's only partially. So you'll naturally want to turn to look at it and lead the person through that way. Why are video games way ahead in these kinds of things in VR for business? Because video game is a profitable business. It makes money. And we are a little bit more of, like I said, eye candy or wow factor, a little bit more of, window dressing kind of stuff. We start to become functional. We start to become more than just some wow factor. We start to become more valuable. People start to produce tools for us, and then people start to teach at colleges. Like right now, you can't get a PhD in in this stuff. You can in gaming. You can go to the University of Utah. You can get a PhD in gaming business. Like, how do you make money at it? You can get it, you know. So it's the value of it, the utility of it. We have to make our stuff more valuable. Kind of sad, but that's the case. So you can't just make pretty stuff. You got to make pretty stuff that has some purpose to it or is some value for the client, or else. And also a really important thing, when this happens to me a lot, and it may happen to other people, I go to pitch a VR concept to somebody. I'll bring a headset or whatever else, my laptop. And during the meeting, the person that I'm presenting to, they just eyes are really big, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. This is wonderful. But if I haven't explained to them how it's going to save them money, or how, because I'm talking to a business person, you can get confused by, they seem so happy and you think you're going to sell. They're like, but they're just enamored with it as some cool looking thing. You haven't sold them on why they've, like, so when you go like, how are they going to pay for it? You got to tell them what they're going to get back from it. So you need to be explaining to them that this, adding this virtual tour to your profile, your Google business profile, will increase your search ranking by, you know, X. And you have to be able to prove that. If you can't sell that to them, the value, you know, they're like, oh, this is amazing, but we're not ready for it right now. I don't see how I could use this. And that's how those meetings go. And oh, that's depressing to go up. Oh, they love this stuff. And they're like, dunk. You know, like, well, it's great, but it doesn't, you know, why would I have that on my website? Anyway, I think that's it. We're at an hour and 40, so probably could wrap it up.
Lauren, I know you mentioned before you thought that there was room for another one of these webinars, and there's a whole areas that we haven't covered, like video, like Doll's House, 3D modeling, and so forth. Tell us, what do you think you have another one in the can here?
I am. I you know, started us off the top of this. Oh, right. I called it part 1, ecosystems and resources. I'm not sure what part 2 would be. Maybe people could help us on that one, but I'd like to kind of continue this stream of thought and how we're doing this. I'm talking about getting a little bit more into the design philosophies and you know, how do we actually build, because this is how do you mechanically build it. This isn't how do you build it well, right? I'm not showing you Pixar yet. I've you know, how do we get to the Pixar movies? And that, I mean, we had some webinars on storyboarding and VR storytelling. I don't know, let's talk about it. Let's maybe have a meeting, and because unfortunately, we had our conference was scheduled for 3rd week in June. We're not having that now, sadly. Some of us will be in Vegas to just kind of have a meetup. But so we'll figure out what we're going to have on the 22nd. I think we're going to have some people, a third party, come in and do a presentation on their content, you know, like a nice, really high-end product, and they'll talk about their philosophy.
Basically, all the presenters that we had scheduled for the conference will be now converting their presentations to webinars, which in a way is better because they have more time and a flexible schedule to be able to present, and we still have the back and forth Q&A, but we don't have the option to be able to interact on a one-to-one personal basis with them.
Yeah.
So there's going to be an entire series that will be focusing on VR video, but we'll also be having subjects such as photogrammetry. How do you create an actual 3D space, as in a game, that you can navigate through using the current tools? We actually have 2 different presenters in that area. And we'll be featuring some of the spectacular VR experiences that have been created. So for instance, the One Ocean at
One Ocean World
in Dubai is an incredible experience. So we'll have people who will talk about how on the very high end, they created their own custom cameras to be able to shoot this content. And then the experience of creating that entire physical environment, not just something for a headset. So there's going to be a wide range of presentations that will be happening over the next year.
Yeah, I might work on photogrammetry. This is a test. I did this a couple years ago, but this is a photogrammetry, very planar, but you can see you're in the space. So you're creating 3D, and this is very high resolution, and so I can go up and down. And I think I actually had a gaming where if I use a gaming engine, yeah, WASD WASD or whatever. So you're able, and this isn't Matterport, but you can create Matterport style virtual tours strictly from the imagery, because that's all Matterport is doing. And I haven't seen it for a couple years. I should go back and look at it, because I think we're getting to the point where it's starting to become real. But that's photogrammetry, and it's a fascinating technology. And then you can start to measure things, and I don't think I have a measuring tool on this one, but anyway, I think we're done.
Right.
I think everyone can see the value of these webinars. This is content that you will not generally be able to easily find elsewhere, not in YouTube videos or such. So this is what we are bringing to the community. And these webinars live are free and open to anybody. If you want to be able to view the recordings, well, yeah, then you need to be a member of IVRPA. But for $50 a year, that's dirt cheap for what you're getting. So I recommend taking a look at that. We'll have there will be an email going out to everybody announcing that this webinar is now available on demand, but to members, and then continue watching for the upcoming webinars. They will be pretty darn cool. So with that, thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll wait until next time.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you guys. I like having an audience like this. You got a lot of questions and chats. I appreciate it. It was very nice. All right. Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. Take care.